All right, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you're located. All right, it's been a while since we've done a live Zoom session here in the HM Mentorship and Inspiration Group, but we're back. And today we have a very, very important live Zoom session that we're going to bring to you. So we're in the month of May. And if you don't know, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And we are here to break the stigma, to let you know that nothing is wrong with speaking up and speaking out about any mental health problems that you may have. There's nothing wrong with going to get seen. There's nothing wrong with talking about it. And as a matter of fact, it helps breed resilience. So I am Chief McCauley. I will be your host for today. I have a team of awesome shipmates, chiefs and first classes on board, and they're going to share their stories with you to talk about their experiences and how they overcame adversity. Because at the end of the day, we all put on our boots the same way. We all put on our pants and our blouses the same way and our covers. And we are all in this together. All right. We need every single one of you for us to carry on our mission, which is to defend our nation. So let's go ahead and get after it. We're going to start with Chief Maddox. All right. And he's going to share with us his story in resiliency. Chief Maddox, you have the floor.
Hello, everyone. I'm Chief Maddox, currently stationed at Naval Undersea Medical Institute in Groton, Connecticut, and it's actually sunny outside and not gloomy like normal. So story about resiliency and adversity. So in 2007, I had surrounded myself with the wrong crowd, was doing things I wasn't supposed to do as a young sailor in the Navy. I had just picked up HM3, and I found myself in a whirlwind of trouble, a passenger to a DUI, fights in the club, messing up on maintenance on the ship, just totally distracted and unfocused. After a couple sit downs with the chain of command and obviously going to go see the man, the CO, I wind up catching an NJP, good old Article 15 days restriction, 15 days extra duty. And obviously, what does that mean, right? So that's gonna hurt me on eval, right? That's gonna punish me as far as like trying to promote. And also dealing with the fact that, okay, well, I'm stuck. So how do I bounce back up? Lost all my quals because I messed up on maintenance. So how do I bounce back up? And it was a systematic approach, and it took 3 years. And it was a long process, and I had to take a step back and reflect in the mirror. Is this what I want? Is this what I want to do? Do I want to get kicked out and go back home to Greenville, Mississippi? No, I didn't want to do that. I am a reflection of who I represent. So let me see, can I do something about it? So we bounced back. I got my service in air in 6 months. I got all my quals back, all the way up to 312. All the DC quals, all the 3M quals, just bounced completely back up. And then from there, it's been a 3-year step. From 07 to 2010, I picked up E5. And then from there, I just used that jump to just continue to keep going. So what was the key? Mindset. Being able to understand what you can control and what you can't control. I truly believe in having some sort of emotional intelligence to be able to handle emotions in the proper way instead of spazzing out everywhere. Internalize, and then from there, make a smart decision. So that is my short story on adversity and resilience, centered around mindset and emotional intelligence. If I can do it, and there's a bunch of chiefs and pet officers in the Navy that has done it, officers as well, that means you can do it too. It's all about this and controlling it. That's it.
Nice.
Wow. Talk about some inspiration and mentorship and motivation. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And I'm glad the way you tied that together, because I was actually going to ask you when you said you bounced back. I was about to ask you, I was going to say, how did you bounce back? And then you went right into it. I think you was reading my mind. You went right into it, man, that mindset, man. So, hey, man, thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for being real, right? Ain't that the word we say nowadays?
That's what they want. They want, right? Real. They want transparency.
Absolutely.
Let's give it to them.
Absolutely. Being 100. No cap. Ain't that what they say?
That's what they say.
So this is a no cap session. That's what we calling this. No cap session. You know I got a cap.
No capping. No capping allowed.
Look, you know the junior sailor gonna see this and be like, what them G's talking about?
Take the cap off.
I can't take the cap off. All right, good stuff, good stuff. All right, let's go ahead and move next. We're gonna roll into Chief Lacoste. If you don't mind, share us your story, your experience, what you've been through, and how you got through it.
Oh man, hey, good morning everybody. Chief Lacoste. I'm over here at First Marine Logistics Group out in sunny California, where it's nice and 61 degrees. Yeah, it's nice. My story is a little different. It's more, kind of family centric, work related, talking about Recruit Training Command. 2017, I was selected to go to Recruit Training Command. I got up there in April and going through C school, 13 weeks of school, trying to figure that stuff out. You know how us corpsmen are, we stick to our own, rate, our own comfort zones. And going up there, you're in a whole new element. You're in a different animal. You're in a different beast. You're taken out of your element. And then come July, August, results come out and I get selected for chief. So now I'm going through season and C school at the same time, dealing with all that. Families in a new area, kids trying to get them in school. School's not going that well. Daughter's having issues. And then that just kind of started the domino effect, if you will. Blessing and a curse at the same time, right? Selected for chief, best time of your life. But at the same time, I'm dealing with housing issues. I've got yellow jackets infested in my wall, a full nest where we're waking up every morning in base housing with 50, 60 yellow jackets. I've got dead birds in the attic fan for my kids' bathroom. So dealing with base housing issues, they don't want to pay to move me. Going through season, that's a whole nother process in itself, mentally taxing, exhausting, and then also trying to become an RDC. So all that kind of compiled, and then I graduate, I get pinned all in September, and I pick up my first push, and my stepdad gets paralyzed from the waist down. He's 8 hours away, four-wheeler accident. It just kind of ended really bad. And so my mom's running the business, 5 Snap-on tool trucks, manager of Southwest Missouri, trying to figure all that stuff out, and she's by herself. I'm on push, and if anybody's been to RTC, it's 8 weeks of 04 wake up the recruits, which means you're up at 3 and you're working from basically 3 in the morning until 11 at night, rinse and repeat 7 days a week for 8 to 10 weeks at a time. So going through that push, trying to manage all that stuff, still dealing with the house and the issues in base housing. Between my first and second push, base housing finally let us move, but they gave me 4 days. So I had keys to 2 houses for 4 days. And being a part of the new Chiefs mess, you got over 270 Chiefs up there. So I put it out to my Chiefs mess and, the ship that I was in, the barracks. And come that day, one person showed up, just one. So it's kind of a little different perspective. I'm like, man, just went through all this. I asked for help, reached out. Maybe I didn't speak correctly. Maybe we got a communication gap. Maybe I didn't put it out in the right text or tone. So I had to move my entire house in that weekend, Saturday, Sunday, because I picked up my next division on Monday and went right back on push. So one chief gave me his trailer, and then another, now a senior chief, he showed up and helped me move everything that entire day, but just trips back and forth all day. So into that next push, kind of continuing the story, my aunt, who taught my entire family what family means, every Christmas, whether you were fighting or not, we all went to her house and we celebrated Christmas. We were always together. All arguments stopped at the door. She didn't allow that stuff in the house. Come to find out, she passed away from cancer. Turn around, graduate, that push, still on push, didn't take any emergency leave because the mission comes first. And they're like, well, we'll try to work something out after this push. Well, that next push, graduated Friday, picked up Tuesday. So push number 3, go into push. And this is where it kind of hit hard. So I mean, my resiliency started when I was a kid. I lost my dad at 10 from suicide. At, the age of 5, I dealt with my brother's dad being murdered. And then, my aunt passed away like a month after this. It was all like a trickle effect. But with my grandma passing away on this one, I mean, that was the last member of my dad's family that was there. And so it's kind of one of those things. She was in hospice, stage 4 cancer, unexpected. And yet again, on push, no leaving. And then my last push on the front end, the first year of being an instructor, my uncle passed away from thyroid cancer. So I say all this, transparency, talking about that mental resiliency, it put me in a tailwind spin. It put me in a dark space. And it wasn't until after that fourth one that I felt comfortable speaking out about it. To be honest, this is like the first time that I've actually opened up and told a large group. Normally it's just kind of one-on-one situations talking about stuff like that. But if it wasn't for my family, meaning my wife and my kids, me growing up with, without having a dad, that's what I pride and focus myself on, is I want to be there for those kids. I want to be there for my wife. I want to be there for the family, no matter what it takes. And so that was the first focus. And then the second focus was I had to learn to trust people. I had to learn to lean on the mess, my peers, and say, hey, like, not doing okay. I do need help. Not everything has to go the medical route or has to go the psychological route. We have so many different resources, but we often forget about the resource that's right next to us. And that's our day-to-day peers that we deal with and we work with, that have stories similar to us that we can lean on and do stuff like this. Because just because you're going through something doesn't mean that somebody didn't go through it and just doesn't feel comfortable talking about it. So I say that, and that's kind of the way that I got through it, is relying a lot on my home life, making sure, it changes your mentality when you come home and your kids are smiling and they're happy. It got to the point where, in the beginning with all those issues in the base housing, my daughter wasn't singing, she wasn't yelling, she wasn't being happy, she wasn't doing all those things. But towards the end of it, she was back to singing and being happy, singing in the shower, things like that, whistling, all the things that, sometimes are a little annoying, but we look at it now and, that's signs of happiness, that's signs of, greatness, things are going right. And then being able to rely and lean on our peers, whether you're a first class and you use your first class mess, or you're a chief and you use your chief's mess, being able to have that support system and have that close knit of group friends, be like, hey man, it's all right, we got you, like, let's do this. And at RTC, they stepped up and pulled me in, kind of recalibrated me. It's a new word, I don't know if you guys know it, but that mental toughness, and put me back on the right track. And, I was able to kind of bounce back and recover. It took time. It definitely took time. I didn't get any of my quals done during those 9 months. But I was able to, get back on track and get all that stuff done within 3 to 6 months of being picked back up and put back on the right track.
Wow. Well, let me first off say thank you for sharing your story. That is, the transparency and realness, the no cap session that we're talking about, that was very transparent. So thank you for sharing that. And this is one thing that I like about doing the live Zoom sessions, as opposed to just posting stuff in a group. The live Zoom session, you actually can hear people and you can feel them and hear the passion and what they've been through or what they're going through. And you learn. Like, I just sat here and I just listened to you, and I just picked up some things, right, from you just talking and sharing your story. One thing that I will say is I completely 100% agree with you when you say you don't always have to go to mental health. You don't always have to go be seen by somebody, or you don't always have to, do the resource thing. Your resources sometimes are right around you, right to your left and to your right. Or even like for you at home, like, you have resources all around you. And that's part of what this is about, utilizing each other. Like, that's what we're here for. So, man, that story is amazing. I'm glad that you shared it. I'm glad that you're here. And man, thank you. That's all I can say. Thank you for sharing that, man. Thank you.
Thank you for having us here. It's hard, but just because I went through a dark time and I had issues doesn't mean that somebody listening doesn't have worse issues. So I truly appreciate you taking the time to set this stuff up, so that way we can try to help each other.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Let's move next to Chief Spare. Chief Spare, tell us your story, your experiences, and how you overcame adversity through resilience.
Hey, how's everyone doing? Glad to be here. Thanks for putting this together. Chief Spare down here in, Bay St. Louis, Mississippi, working at NAF Skiats. So, my story of resiliency is, after a couple tours to Iraq, I kind of, kept everything inside and didn't want to talk to anybody about the experiences I, saw down there. Went to alcohol instead. So went down that, whole alcoholism, drinking every night to the point of, blacking out at some points. And that was the status quo for a long time. Didn't talk to anybody, didn't get help. Because, with anybody who's been with the Marines or sometimes even just in the military itself, it's kind of frowned upon to, got put on that front, that macho man type. You don't want, and so they try to persuade you against getting help. So, I want to be tough, and I wanted to tough it out and handle it, which was not the right, the way to do it. So got worse and worse. And then I ended up transferring to Naval Hospital, Pensacola, where the problems followed me. Alcohol, started affecting my career as far as like my work performance, got in trouble with the law, went to see, the CMC, went to see the man. And this is where the story kind of switches for me. Instead of that CMC taking me to the man, he stopped it right there. Because I didn't get an actual NJP offense. I might have been, but he realized that I was struggling and had problems. And so what he did, he actually talked to me, helped me out, put me on the right path, and let me know that he actually cared. And that was the first time I ever had anybody care. Let me know that it's okay to talk about these things and get help. If in fact, it makes you a stronger person. And that's why I feel like this is such important training, to be able to talk about this, builds you up, that whole mental toughness, and gets you as a stronger individual. So that way you can also help others, and it helps you identify what others are going through. So it took that one person, that CMC, to realize that in me, see the potential that I didn't see in myself, and, help me clear up my act. Got the help I needed, which not everyone needs help, but I definitely needed help. I needed to detox. And then, he was an IDC, right? So he's like, you ever thought about IC? I didn't know anything. I didn't wasn't on my radar. I was just kind of more in the bottle. So he got me my mind thinking on that, put me in a leadership position. Before you know it, I'm sale of the quarter, number one EP out of there. And then I'm going to IDC school right after. Hadn't touched the bottle. And then I, started doing physical things, running, half triathlons, stuff like that, just to do something else besides the bottle. Found a different crew to hang out with, people that supported me. And then before you know it, graduating IDC school with honors. And then, go to MARSOC from there. And, ever since there, it's been trying to give back to, and letting people know that it's okay to get help. And that's why I think this is very important. Like, that whole macho thing, that's for the birds. You have to be able to talk. And it's okay to tell your sailors, if they see that you're vulnerable, they're going to be more inclined to come to you and express their concerns as well. And you can't put those walls up. You have to be able to take those walls down and help people, some of the sailors, when they come to you. And this goes from all ranks, right? Junior sailors all the way to the senior. Lean on each other. We're all kind of in the same boat. We all have same experiences, different experiences, but in the end, we're all in the same team. So you have support. You have people there that are willing to help you out. After that, I'm still clean. Now a DAPA here at the command. So, trying to give back. And that's what it's about. So, but I cannot stress enough to anybody who's listening, right? You have support. You have people that care about you. Even if you don't see it in yourself, there's plenty of people out there that care about you. And that's why in leadership, right? Put those walls down, have that open door, legitimate open door policy, and stop the judgment. See that sailor as a person, hear what they want to say. Don't speak, just listen. That's about it, man. That's like I said.
Wow. I don't even need to do my emotional intelligence training. That was it. That was all of it. Like there were so many key words that Chief Spare. So for all of y'all that are listening, for the ones that are not like actively logged in, because this is recorded, so I'm sure you'll watch it later. But for all of y'all that are listening, I hope that when you listen to that, you had your notepad out and you were taking down notes and jotting down some key words, because he said some key words. Number one was caring. If you listen to what he said, the first person that showed that they cared for him was the one that redirected him, was the one that steered him on the right track. It started with caring. He said nothing about the person that was the number one sailor, or the person with all the ribbons, or the person that everyone likes, or he said nothing about anything tangible. His key word was caring. The first person that showed that they cared, and it didn't have to be a CMC, it just so happened to be the CMC. But that's what redirected him. And then another key word that he mentioned was put your walls down. Listen. Put your walls down and listen. Like, and especially I'm talking to leaders now, we don't have to be so quick to be Superman. All right. We don't have to be so quick to have the answer. Sometimes all people want to do is just talk and vent. And all we have to do is listen. Literally listen. Now, if they're asking for help, then by all means, that's why we're here. But if they want to just talk, listen, that goes a long way. But I'm not gonna go any further into that, because we do have a PowerPoint. And listen, Chief Spare, I don't know what to say. For all anybody out there that listen to that, please hit up Chief Spare. I can tell you right now that he has an open door policy by what he just said. I'm sure that he doesn't mind listening to you. And man, that was amazing. So thank you so much for that. All right, let's move next to Chief Staten. Please share with us your story, how you overcame adversity, and what made you resilient.
All right, hey everyone. My name is Chief Staten. I'm actually a sub IDC up here in Groton. As it was said earlier, it is actually warm. I don't know why Chief Maddox was in a hoodie, but that's beside the point. So backstory for me, I'm a sub IDC. I've been doing it since 2015. I converted from surface. The first boat I ever went to was the USS North Dakota. Started in the shipyard. So the resiliency I saw is actually a really, really interesting story. It's actually of the entire command. So I know we're all corpsmen. A lot of us come from the Marines. So we hear gunshot wound, no big deal, right? It is a big deal, but so on my submarine, I had the first underway gunshot wound since 1987. Made the Navy Times if you want to go look at it. So what happened, I had a sailor, and again, I'm the IDC, so I had a sailor who was seeking he was already being treated by mental health. He actually got closed out for mental health, that they said, yep, absolutely fine, he's good to go. We go underway. Mind you, this is my captain. My captain had just turned over, so his first underway with the boat. My chief of the boat, equivalent to the CMC's second underway, and my XO's first underway. We go out, do an inspection team, and then come back and drop them off in Groton. So as we're heading back out, people don't really know submarines. We don't actually dive right away. We have to go out a little ways. So we're about 18 hours out off the coast of New England, and we're about to get to our dive point. And me, I'm actually, it's about 5 or 6. I had just gotten off watch, and I was actually in the rack. And then I just hear on the 1MC, gunshot wound, torpedo bro. So again, I'm like, what's going on? We're on a submarine. No, not at all. Corpsman laid to torpedo room, gunshot wound. I go down there, my EMAT team, but my cooks, they're down there, they're performing like outstanding. We go down there, start helping out with the sailor. I've never seen a crew come together like that. We ended up going back. We had the sailor. We weren't able to medevac him off the boat because, oh, by the way, in addition to this, the weather and the fog was, the description was pea soup. Couldn't see a thing. We were driving blind. We had radar, and anyone who knows surface radar, it's not that great. Driving, having to drive all the way 18 hours back in. We do the exams. This kid had he had the barrel center chested. It was an M16 barrel, as we all know. He had shorter arms, so luckily when he shot, it jerked. So it missed his it went into a second intercostal space. So of course we're all corpsmen. thinking chest wound, pneumothorax. I listened, breath sounds normally, so I have a chest tube sitting by. I'm on chat with doctors back in port. This kid, it was 2 millimeters away from his pleural cavity, 2 millimeters away from a subclavian artery. That was, so again, luckily, God's, whoever was with him, kept him safe. But we get back into port and we pull in. This guy comes in. They have a tug because we can't pull in under the New London Bridge. So the tug, we have our topside guys out there with like glow sticks waving it out because the tug was right next to us and still can't see us. Super dangerous. We ended up making like a chain with every topside to the path to the tug, so that way we could bring him up. He ends up getting off. Our boat, we're not able to go back in, so we actually pull out, go around the Block Island until the next morning. We go back in. At this point, like everything else in the society, the local newspaper, The Day, already had this on reporting, like gunshot on sailor. So we have that. Our families know nothing about this. Well, so we finally pull back in, and our whole crew is just demoralized. It's just upsetting when one of your guys, especially on a submarine, we're all really close knit. We're all best friends. And this guy was a fantastic sailor, one of our divers, and it just beat us up. So needless to say, we go through that following week. We have embedded mental health come down to our boat. We had embedded mental health flying from Norfolk to do our boat because we have to go back out because we just started our workup. So we have time sensitive events that we have to meet. I will tell you, I've never seen my crew. We were revitalized. We helped each other. We supported each other. And actually, every single person's kind of said what we went through, right? The Chiefs mess were supporting the Chiefs and their sailors. They were reaching out. We had our captain. Our captain was actually a big support for me because, I mean, as the doc, who do you go to? As the captain, who do you go to? We talked to each other, and it was fantastic. My chief of the boat was there. He ended up grabbing my wife and talking to my wife while I'm over here going down to Yale, New Haven. It was but for resiliency as a corpsman, I mean, especially as an IDC, because again, I felt responsible for the sailor. But I asked him. He actually told me later on. He's like, "Doc, you didn't do anything. You could have gotten me into mental health 2 days before this, but I had the gun and I had the means and I had the feelings and I did it." So that's one of the other truths about this, right? We talk about it, right? Knowing the signs, knowing the capabilities, but at the end of the day, we have to look out for each other, and we have to understand. We still, every single person on the crew, we actually reach out to him all the time. We do live chat. He's out in California now, out of the Navy, but super fantastic kid. It's one of those moments where I've never seen a crew, like an entire submarine crew, get back together, get back out there. We deployed. We ended up coming back with the best recommendations from Central or CTF 69, which is out in Europe. Was able to longest underway deployed fast attack submarine in the last like 5 years. So it was fantastic. But I appreciate you guys letting me share my story. It's just it's one of those stories that as a sub IDC, you don't really get a chance to tell how amazing your crew is and how well we got together.
Wow. Again, all I can say is thank you, because every time we go to a different person and you hear a different story, it's like you said, like you don't get an opportunity to say it. We don't get an opportunity to hear this. So just to even hear it, it's like, wow. It's like, I'm glad that you shared that so others can hear this, what it does for you, and then what it does for those that are listening. And I mean, me too. like hearing y'all's story, it just makes me want to do this even more. Like, we're not stopping. There's so many people out there that have these stories, and just hearing your story is like, wow. So I'm sure one of my team members, Master Chief McDevitt, she's gonna love this. She's gonna absolutely love it. And the rest of the sub IDC community. Thank you for sharing that, man. We don't get to go on subs, so this is what we get to hear. So thank you, man. Thank you for that. Wow. All right, let's move next to, I see HM1 Stanway is here. Now, before we go forward, reminder, we do want to keep the time to 45 minutes to an hour. So I think we have at least one more, and then we'll do the PowerPoint. And then we'll try to get out of here on time so I can get you guys back to you Saturday. All right. So, but we do have HM1 Stanway here, and he's awesome first-class petty officer. So we want to hear his story. So HM1 Stanway, you have the floor.
Good morning, everyone. Sorry I got late to the party. Just putting the little ones down. I'm going to just kind of share my story. It's a hard follow-up story after the last presenter, but basically mine is about resiliency for myself and trying to keep pushing forward when no one else was really kind of in my corner. So what happened was, reported to my first duty station in 2012, middle of nowhere, Virginia, a place called Dahlgren. I got there, I was new HN, and I wanted to hit the ground running. So I did, hit it hard. I ended up getting an EP for my first eval there, and was doing all the right things. Well, while I was doing all the right things, I also was trying to be a typical young sailor that loved to have fun. Well, if you've ever been to Dahlgren, Virginia, there's literally nothing to do there besides Walmart. Like literally you drive 45 minutes to an hour. So the only thing we did every weekend was drink and party. So one weekend we were celebrating my 21st, and I let somebody drive, and we drove to go get more alcohol. Came back, and he ended up getting a DUI. But in the whole situation, I was the senior HN in that situation, and I didn't take as much responsibility as I did in that situation. And when that happened, basically I felt like everyone disowned me or didn't ever want to talk to me in that sense. I felt like I lost the respect of all the sailors around me. And it was a really hard pill to swallow. Had to do a lot of reflection and keep moving forward. But I knew that I had an uphill battle. I knew that the way it was, there's one senior chief there that really was one of the guys that was just real with me. He told me what I needed to hear, but he had a thing that he told me. He said, it's easy to get to the top. It's easy to do all the right things. But if there's one thing that you do wrong, it falls that quickly, and it is 10 times harder to get back. And he was more right than ever, because I just was constantly set out to try to prove myself to be better. And at times I felt like I was in a losing battle. So not only that, I met my wife there. We had our first kid. I had our own relationship issues at the same time. I wasn't scoring very good on the advanced exams. I was actually scoring in the 40s. So I knew that I really didn't have a good chance to pick up. But I was on the second part of my EP eval, and I knew that after that DRB, I knew that next eval that was coming was not going to be as good as that one. So I had to buckle into gear and say, hey, I'm going to do whatever I can to pick up off this test. I changed the whole entire way I studied. I was focused more on increasing my knowledge for my job and everything else, and just being in my own zone. I didn't care about what else was going around me, because I knew I could only control what I did, and ended up making third off of that test. But I knew I still had a long road ahead of me. So I kept doing more and more to help. I rocked out at Joint Commission. And at the end of the day, I think the biggest thing that struck me there was I couldn't rely on somebody else to be in my corner more than myself, because it was very lonely being by myself, but I knew who I wanted to gravitate towards and who could help build me up. But I knew at the end of the day, I'm the only one that can control my own actions. And that's where it hit home, where taking responsibility goes a long ways. I was there for 4 years. So it was very dreadful, because not only did I lose the respect of my guys, I had to do that for 4 years, the 3 different chain of commands, everyone just talking to each other. And all I wanted to do was get out of the middle of nowhere Dahlgren. So I got out of there, and I went to Camp Lejeune for Dental Battalion, went to Field Med, and I told myself I am going to start off and stay strong and kill it and change my own narrative. So I ended up going there and went through Field Med, got straight to dental battalion, and I had a goal. I was gonna keep doing my college classes, get my FMF pin, and do advancement. I knew I couldn't do all three well at the same time, so I had to prioritize. So I said, you know what? I just took an advancement test. I'm gonna wait to. I'm gonna try to get my FMF pin by the time advancement results came out. So I killed it with my FMF pin. I was able to get in 6-7 days. Right when advancement results came out, I didn't make it off that test. But the very next test, I again buckled down and knew that I had fate only in my hands, and I ended up picking up second class on the very next test. All I had to worry about was college. But the whole point was I wanted to get that stuff knocked out first because I wanted to focus on other people. I wanted to try to be the shining light for somebody else that wasn't there for me. I never had anybody in my corner, but I know that there's, hold on, Harper. I know there's sailors that are always struggling and are immediately judged by one little mistake. And I gravitated towards those people to know that there's always a road back to redemption. So I solely focused my efforts when I was there in Lejeune on helping the people that they wrote off on getting their FMF pins, helping the people they wrote off that they didn't think they were ever going to advance. I ended up helping 25 people get their FMF pins, and then a couple more people. Hold on one second. Hold on, Harper. So I ended up just focusing on making others better. And I kind of was able to develop my own leadership style after that place. I knew that I didn't need to be a collateral warrior. I didn't need to be LPO of the century. All I needed to do was take something and try to make a difference with it and do it the best I could. I ended up leaving Lejeune as a junior. So I went from being one of the worst places in my life to one of my best places in life in Lejeune. And I literally left there as a number one EP. I had 34 seconds, and I was only a junior second at the time. And then I carried on that when I got to Great Lakes and was able to, I knew that I checked in November. I knew that I was going to get that welcome aboard P, that March cycle. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to crush it. Ended up making first class already off of that March cycle and kept pushing forward. So I guess the whole point of my story is that the road to redemption is not impossible. Everybody has a way to fight back, no matter what it is. And sometimes you got to take a hard look at yourself more than worrying about what everybody else thinks. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've seen a lot of junior sailors do and myself do is we just care about what everybody else thinks of us on and how we are, and we want to just be the best that we can be, but we don't realize that we control our own future. So whenever I talk to my own sailors, and they're all down because I didn't win sail of the quarter or didn't advance, I tell them, don't worry about anybody else because only you can control what happens in your future. And I try to share my story as an example of that because when it comes down to it, if you want to get what you want to get, you're going to get there if you put in the work. It don't matter what quotas are. It don't matter who won Blue Jacket of the quarter. It matters if you're determined and you have a purpose, like we talk about on our page, nothing's going to get in your way, because that's what helped me, save me too, is I found out that my family was my purpose, and I wasn't going to let anything get in the way of letting that purpose die. And so now that I dedicate everything, and now I am 4 kids later, and all I do is for my kids, so nothing ever puts me in the dark, if that makes sense. But sorry I went on for a long story, but I wanted to share my story and show that resiliency is possible.
Absolutely, absolutely. And don't be sorry. Thank you for sharing your story. Everyone has their own journey. Everyone has their own story. There is no competition in stories. There's no such thing as that. Everybody has their own journey. So definitely thank you for sharing your story. And you definitely touched on a lot of key points as well. So what we're going to do is that's going to be a segue to this PowerPoint, make it real brief, because like I said, I have a time limit. I want to get you guys back to your families and to your Saturdays. That's part of the reason why I kind of stopped doing this. You remember we used to do this often on Saturdays, Chief Maddox, and I kind of slowed it down because I don't want to take people's Saturdays away. So
Right.
I think what we did was we came out the gate in this group with high intensity, right? We did a lot of high workouts, but it's not the intensity that's going to get people, it's the consistency that's going to keep people. So that's what we're doing. We slow down the intensity, but we keep going. So let me go ahead and share my screen, and then we'll do some closing remarks, okay? I'm going to breeze through this PowerPoint to make sure I touch the key points, but we're definitely not going to drag this out. So, Chief, why you got the screen up, Chief? Well, because we're talking about emotional intelligence, okay? Emotional intelligence. I'll tie this into why it's important at the end, but let's go through these slides real quick. Let's get right to it. We're not going to talk about no course objectives because this ain't a class. All right, it's just a quick little lesson. All right, so let's talk about intellectual intelligence. Put this in layman terms. This is where you go to school, you go to college, you take courses, right? You learn new stuff, you get smart, right? I go to school, get my master's degree in leadership or science or whatever. You go to school, medical school, you become a doctor. You go to IDC school, right? You become an independent duty corpsman, right? You go to RTCC school, you become a great instructor. This is where you get your intellectual intelligence, all right? However, have you ever met that instructor or that IDC or that person that has the knowledge, but yet they can't seem to translate it to you, right? For some reason, you know they're smart, you know they're intelligent, but for some reason, you just can't quite learn from them. All right. So let's move forward. IQ and EI creates your personality. Who you are is your IQ and your EI, right? So your IQ is what you know, what you learn. Now we're going to talk about your emotional intelligence because that helps. That's the other piece to your personality. This is your brain. This is one of those commercials. This is your brain on drugs. No. So in your brain, there is a section where you think rationally. Rationally means what? So when somebody asks you, what are you doing? It's easy to explain that, right? If I say, what makes you a great petty officer or a great chief? You can explain that. You can put it in words. But feel, if I say why, you ever notice why it's harder for people to explain? You ever think about that? All right. There's an irrational part, there's a rational part of your brain, and then there's an irrational part of your brain where it's harder to put things into perspective. And information comes from the back part of your brain. So information comes in, and the first thing you do is you think rationally about things. But the harder thing to do is to talk about what's irrational, your feelings. So that's what we're getting into. Emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize and understand emotions in yourself and others, and your ability to use this awareness to manage your behavior and relationships. So yes, I could sit here and talk about this to leaders, but this is everybody, even as a junior sailor. Everybody needs to understand how you manage your emotions and how you recognize other people's emotions. And what we're about to talk about, this says relationships. So this isn't just for Navy. This is for your personal life. All right. This can help you in your marriage, in your friendships, right? And in your workplace relationships. Quick quote. It is very important to understand that emotional intelligence is not the opposite of intelligence. It is not the triumph of heart over head. It is the unique intersection of both. So your heart and your head, and where you intersect those, is emotional intelligence. So when you hear people say, stop thinking with your heart, they have a low EI. When you hear people say, you should not think with your heart, they have a low emotional intelligence. And here are some descriptions of lower emotional intelligence versus higher emotional intelligence. If someone is unaware of their emotions, they have low EI. If they show little empathy, they have low EI. If they are able to resolve conflict productively, they have high EI. If they have trouble recovering from setbacks, low EI. If you can adapt to changing circumstances, higher EI. And if you have a high degree of self-awareness and self-control, you have higher emotional intelligence. So check that out, look at that. And you have to ask yourself, this is my job to ask you. You have to ask yourself, where do you fall on there? And by the way, anybody that's logged in, that, you know, the presenters, if you want to speak on any of these, you're more than welcome to. So aspects of emotional intelligence: self-awareness, social awareness. Self-awareness, interpersonal skills, and adaptability. All right, starts with self. But your self-awareness helps you in your social awareness. We'll talk about that. Self-awareness is the ability to perceive your emotions at the moment and understand your tendencies across situations. It is good to understand yourself, the good and the bad. Ask yourself, what am I feeling and why am I feeling it? So you ever been in a situation where somebody says something and you feel yourself getting upset? Why? Why are you getting upset? Number one. And then if you know you're getting upset, how do you handle that? If you've ever blown up on somebody before, think about that moment. Why? So you have to know your triggers. You have to know yourself. Know what makes you upset, what makes you happy, and what puts you in between. Because when you know yourself, when somebody does something to you, they might not know that it's your trigger, but you know that that's your trigger. And you have to be able to step back and say, okay, I'm not going to go off on this person because they don't know. But we'll talk about social awareness next. Listen, self-awareness is not about discovering deep, dark secrets or unconscious motivations, but developing a straightforward and honest understanding of what makes you tick. So if you know what makes you happy, do it. If you know what makes you sad, stay away from it. If you know what makes you upset, don't do it. For example, I know what happened to me in Iraq. Chief Sparrow talked about his situations in Iraq. I know that if I think about something with that, I'm going to immediately get down or sad, or I'm going to think about, as Chief Stratton talked about, what could I have done better? So I don't do that. Because why would I put myself through that? That does nothing for me. It doesn't help me. When you sit around and you think about the things that make you sad or upset, you're only making it worse for yourself. So go find something that makes you happy. Go do something that takes your mind away from it. Go run. As Chief Sparrow said, he put the bottle down. And then he became a dapper. So he took a negative and turned it into a positive situation, kind of like that Biggie Small song, Chief Maddox, right? All right.
That's right.
And these are just some things that people do, right? Maybe you want to go and do some work. Maybe you want to go climb a mountain. Maybe you want to go see a sunset on the beach. Maybe you like speaking to people. I can tell you right now, Chief McCauley loves talking. Anybody that knows me, this is my passion. You put me in a room full of 1,000 people and I will talk to you about the things that make me happy. That's my way of dealing with it. That's why I love teaching A school. You got to find out what works for you and what makes you happy. Recognize your physical cues. When somebody makes you sad or upset, angry, these are some things that may happen. You might have an increased heart rate. You ever had somebody making you so mad you could feel your heart rate pumping? Like that song by Drake, 0 to 100 real quick, right? You ever had somebody that they saying something to you and you just like, right? Stop it. If you know that this is happening, you step back. Butterflies. You go in front of a sailor to quarter board, or you're speaking in front of somebody, you're instructing. Calm yourself down. Take a step back. Tense muscles, sweating, voice. This last one is me. Now, I'm a naturally loud person, but I have to realize that when I'm talking to somebody, I have to be calm. Because some people, when you talk loud and your voice is rising, they take that as you're yelling at them. And for me, I'm not. I just talk loud. So I have to learn how to step back and calm my voice like I'm doing now. That takes practice. But when I'm excited, I get loud. I'm like, hey, this is what I do. And then to another person, it's like, why are you so loud? So I have to learn how to calm down. Now, interpersonal skills, social awareness. This is where we can definitely do better at. After you have learned how to find yourself, social awareness is the ability to recognize others' emotions. Showing empathy enables you to have more positive relationships and minimize unproductive conflict. Conflict management is a tool that we all have to get better at. But you want to know how to get better at conflict management? It's right here. Empathizing. Do you know that when somebody's talking to you and they want to tell you their story, and if they're upset, sad, or angry, if you simply just listen and ask questions and nod your head, that lets them know that you care. As once again, Chief Sparrow said, his turnaround point was when the CMC showed that he cared. Everybody that had a story on here, somewhere along those lines, somebody listened to them. Somebody showed that they cared. So as leaders, when our sailors are talking, we stop talking and we listen and we empathize with them. As people in general, when our peers are going through something, pull them aside and listen to them. Because you know what that does? That builds trust. And when you build trust, people will do anything for you. People will go above and beyond for you when they trust you. And these chiefs on here know that. If you want to be an effective leader, you have to have the trust of your people. And when you have that trust, they will literally go above and beyond for you. And this is how you minimize conflict. If you are in a position of leadership and when you get into a conflict, or let's say you avoid conflict, because a lot of people like to avoid conflict. That's not the answer. Avoiding conflict is not the answer, because all it does is it builds up. You know, people that sweep stuff under the rug. Well, guess what? Eventually somebody gonna lift that rug up and see all that bull crap that you've been sweeping under there. So stop doing that. How about you start by building trust in your people, and you don't have to sweep stuff under the rug. They'll bring you their issues and you'll listen to them. That's social awareness. That's emotional intelligence. All right, moving forward.
You need to repeat that one. That that right there is 100% correct. Like that repeat that section.
Major key alert. Bring it back. Rewind.
So as DJ Khaled would say, another one. You have to make sure that you're building trust. I am going to run it back. I'm going to move forward. I'm going to run it back at the end. Demonstrate empathy. If you look at this picture, to be honest with you, she might not truly deeply understand or care too much about what he's saying, but she's displaying that she is. And it might not be something. Now, understand the difference between empathy and sympathy. Sympathy is, I lost my father. Chief Maddox lost his father. I sympathize with you. We've been through that. Empathy is, I still have my mother, and let's say, God forbid, Chief Sparrow lost his mother. I can't sympathize with you because I didn't go through it, but I can empathize with you because I understand that this really hurts you. So I'm here for you, bro. That's empathy. Be understanding without necessarily agreeing. Oh my God, imagine if we did more of that in the world. Imagine if people who had different political ties, people who were of different colors, people who had different sex preferences, people who, and you know, the list can go on and on. Imagine if we just understood without agreeing. I don't have to agree with everything that you say, but I respect what you're saying because I respect you. Again, that's how you handle conflict. Use words and gestures to show that you care. It's not hard to listen to somebody talk and simply shake your head when they're talking. That lets them know that you're listening. All right. Connecting and communicating, meet them where they are. Watch for nonverbal cues and prepare them for negative information. Listen, folks, nowhere in this am I saying that you need to enable somebody. That's not what we're saying. You need to be honest and truthful with them and with us. Some of the best leaders were honest and truthful with us. Shit, mate, you're messing up. But even though you're messing up, I got you. I'm sure that conversation that CMC had with Chief Sparrow went something like that. Shit, mate, you're messing up. But I got you. Let's get you on the right path. He didn't say, oh, it's okay. We all make mistakes. Just go out there and keep drinking. Negative. Because then Chief Sparrow wouldn't be where he is today. So you got to hold people accountable. Kind of like what HM1 Stanway was saying. Responsibility, accountability, or as Jocko says, extreme ownership. Every one of us has to own what it is we do. But we have to understand that there is somebody out there that will be there for us. I've been in this situation before. As an HM2, I blew up on a pure HM2. And I decided to never do that again. Empathy. So conflict resolution, be aware of your emotions while remaining composed. Be aware of others' emotions. When you're in a conflict with someone, pay attention to their body language. If they're blowing up, you stay calm. Because what does two people blowing up do? It gets nowhere. And I'm sure for those of y'all that are married, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If your wife is yelling and you yelling, you ain't gonna get nowhere. If from a man on here, we know we ain't getting nowhere. So be calm. Listen. Communicate your needs clearly and respectfully, and make your priority getting your needs and the other person's needs met. Emotionally intelligent fighting, leave unrelated issues out. listen without getting defensive, deal in reality, and no jabs. And I'm going to end here. Anyone can become angry. That's easy. But to be angry with the right person to the right degree, at the right time, for the right purpose, and in the right way, that's not easy. So, Chief McCauley, why is this so important? I'm going to tie this to what I've learned in Senior Enlisted Academy, and then we're going to close out. We have to build mentally resilient troops. And I say troops because it could be sailors, soldiers, airmen, and Marines. We need to build mentally resilient troops. My brother that was up at RTC, they did a whole revamp of their curriculum to talk about resiliency. But it starts there, but it doesn't end there. We have to build mentally resilient troops, because in a strategic level setting, all right, if you think about our foreign competitors, they don't care that we don't like each other. They don't care that we are different races. They don't care that we have different sexual preferences. They don't care that we have different political ties. They don't care. All they care about is taking care of their people, taking care of what they believe in. And so our future is not going to look like our past. All right. And our troops in the future have to be tough, strong, and resilient. And we're going to need them. So for my junior sailors out there, my junior troops out there, we need you. All right. I'm telling you, we need you. Contrary to whatever anybody else is telling you, we need you. All right. We need you to be innovative and creative. To my senior sailors out there, it's on us to display that. We have to knock these walls down, as Chief Spare said. We have to be approachable. Don't say I got an open door policy, but then shut them out. Truly open your door. And I'm going to go a step further and say, don't just open your door, open your heart. We need leaders to lead with empathy and emotional intelligence. Knowledge ain't going to get it done, folks. Just because we have the knowledge, and to be honest with you, our junior troops are smarter than us anyway. Yep, I said it. They're smarter than us anyway. If you think the days of because I said so is going to cut it, negative. They'll go on Google and they will print out what it is you said, and they will say, Chief, you're wrong. So it's better to say, hey, shipmate, I don't know, but I'll find it out. And you never know, they might just say, well, Chief, we got it right here. Well, thank you, shipmate. I appreciate that. Let's put it out for the crew so everybody knows. That's how you lead now. That's the future of leadership, is a team effort, collaboration, right? That's the future of leadership. So I'm done off my soapbox. I hope that every leader takes on the emotional intelligence. I hope every junior sailor takes on emotional intelligence. And I separated those two, but truth be told, junior sailors, y'all are leaders too. A rank doesn't make you a leader. So all y'all E1s out there, E2s, E3s, you can lead your peers. And I expect you to lead your peers, because you are the future. For all my E4, E5, E6, your time is now. Because the chiefs that are on here, we're going to be retiring soon. But y'all are now. Y'all are next. Y'all are the sixth man. In the NBA, you're the sixth man. All right? And the sixth man can win the MVP. Am I lying, Chief Maddox?
Andre Iguodala did it.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Absolutely. So, all right, I'm done. We're going to do some closing remarks. We're going to get up out of here. So, Chief Maddox, if you don't mind giving us a short closing remarks, and we'll go down the list.
I just appreciate the chiefs that came on here and got their story. And I just want to let the community know that pretty much every aspect of the corpsman community is represented today. Within NSW, Marines, subs, service IDC, and even regular 8404 Quad Zeros, all represented today, and all had stories that spoke to adversity and resiliency in some way, shape, or form or fashion. I also want to drive home that why piece that Chief McCauley was discussing. That body language is understood before you even open your mouth. So understand how you approach people, show a little bit of humbleness, and from there you can find out what's going on with that person. We talk about opening the door, opening heart, and last I want to say, answer your phone when they call and when the junior sailors are calling. But some of y'all don't like answering unknown numbers. Let's keep it real. Answer the phone, because you never know what time of the night they might call you. So have your phone available. And I just want to say thank you. I appreciate all of you. Knowing and understanding who you are is the key to success, making us better leaders. better leaders and as well as handling the mission. That's all I have. Thank y'all.
My man, thank you so much, Chief Maddox. I can always count on you to be on board. All right, Chief Spirit, closing remarks.
Yeah, so thanks for putting this together. Like I can't stress enough the importance of resiliency and just letting everybody know that you have people care about you, right? And asking for help is not weak. It actually makes you stronger. And being vulnerable makes you a better leader, right? Makes you understand more what everybody else is going through. So it's not weak to ask for help. And then you have people in your corner. If you don't have anybody, hey, you give me a call. Your chief a call, they call, Chief Maddox call. You always have people available. So your life matters, right? And whatever you go through will build you and make you stronger in the end. And then you bring that on and you share it and you help other people. So that's what I got.
Absolutely, my man. And I'm gonna hit you offline, Chief Spirit, because I knew your face looked familiar. I think we were stationed together in Pensacola.
You're probably right.
Yeah, I knew your face looked familiar. I'm like, this guy looks familiar, my man. All right, Chief LaCalls, closing remarks.
Hey, I really appreciate you guys all coming out and sharing your stories. I'm going to do something that Master Chief Van Garen did to me. So when he did this with your guys' live Zoom with Command Senior Chief, Command Master Chief package, he dropped a little nugget out there. And that was one thing that I picked up on, but Verbal Judo, the book. So I picked that book up, like he mentioned it kind of slyly through his conversation. I started listening to it. I mean, I got an hour drive to work every day, but so I started listening to the audio book, and like that book alone hits everything that we're talking about. Statistically speaking, from like 2013 when this book was written, it was surprising to know that 84% of the people that you communicate with don't understand what your intent is. All too often we speak, and when we speak, our physical cues don't match what our verbal cues are. So trying to drive that information to make it match and mash to get the full point across, and then just asking for the repeat back to make sure that there's comprehension there. That would solve a lot of our issues today, and it kind of ties right into that resiliency piece and that opening up and trustworthy piece of being able to properly communicate. I think that's where we struggle the most is people got that wall up and they don't want to communicate. It may be a physical wall or it may be a verbal wall, but the walls are up and we're not reaching across. We're not making sure that there's a comprehension, and it's not a full communication aspect for both of us. But that's all I got. I appreciate you guys.
Absolutely, man. We appreciate you, bro. We appreciate you. All right. Next, we got H1 Stanway, closing remarks.
I would just like to say this is definitely a great session. I think with all of this, the thing that I think means the most is knowing it's kind of a combination of authenticity and situational awareness. Because to have emotional intelligence, you got to be aware of what's going on around with you. And with the authenticity, there's a fine line between being who you are and knowing how you're supposed to be in certain moments. What do I mean by that? I've heard some people say, well, that's just the way I am. So they're going to have to be used to that, or I'm going to operate this way. So that way is never going to gather the troops that you want. And like you said before, the trust has to be built with your sailors, and that's built through active listening and actually being consistent with your actions, but knowing that you're also paying to the needs of others. I mean, it is a new Navy. I mean, it's not back in the day where you could just tell somebody to do something and they do it with no questions asked. If you want to get buy-in from your people, you gotta actually listen to them, and that's how you keep moving forward, and that's how you build a resiliency force. If I had somebody that listened to me, I did have that one individual. That one individual made the difference more than anybody else had in my career, because they actually sat down and got to try to know me instead of just trying to push me on to somebody else.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for sharing your story as well. So that is it for our presenters. I do have one question. We do have one shipmate that logged in only to listen. So I just want to ask Shipmate Williams, was this a good session?
This was a great session, and I'm glad you gave me a chance to speak at the end on H1 Williams. I was able to actually serve with H1 Stanway as well. And I can't really, I just want to thank everybody for coming out and saying something. It makes me think about when I was a junior sailor and I had some really hard times. And I feel like if I had something like this, it could lift me right now. Right now, I feel lifted, renewed, like, man, I can do this. And I just feel like there's so many other junior sailors who might hear this you know, because we have social media platform. I know you also share this on YouTube, and most people, we, you know, share this doing some Sailor 360 training. You know what I mean? You're able to get this out to so many people who at the time may not even know that they needed to hear it, but then they hear this, they're renewed, they're ignited, and they're ready to make change. So I appreciate everyone for putting this together and sharing your stories. I know I didn't share stories, I just came here to hear, and I just feel so blessed to be here and be able to hear this. Let you guys go. Thank you so much.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. That's another piece of communication is feedback. And I love getting feedback. You know, I don't like doing things and then I don't know how well it's perceived, right? Emotional intelligence. So thank you so much for that feedback. And I think I can speak for the rest of the presenters on here when we say it's great to hear that. It lets us know that what we are doing is not in vain. So thank you so much. With that being said, everyone, thank you so much again for being here. I don't care where you go on this Saturday, but you got to get up out of here, okay? All right, man. Love y'all, man. Y'all stay blessed and stay safe, man. Y'all have a great weekend.
Take care. Thanks.
All right.
Take care. Peace out.
Have a good one.